My name is Daniel, and I'm playing as my Fisher Friends account. I do actually have a couple of accounts, but this is the primary one that I'm using at the moment. Um, what I'm going to do is just run through the settings that I'm going to do for this little season, and then I'm going to hit this big scary button up here that I don't really want to do, but I'm going to have to. So I want to run down the list of both general and the advanced, and just cover a few things before I start. So we're going to go with maximum difficulty. That allows. So if you've never ever played Ark before, this is going to give you a little bit of insight as well. But basically, if you have it set to maximum, it'll basically generate dinosaurs or creatures up to 130 or level 130. There is another button down at the bottom, which we'll talk about when we get down there, that basically allow you to push that to 150. It won't guarantee that you'll find those dinosaurs or creatures. It will just give you that potential to get the maximum level you can possibly find. It makes it the most difficult that you can, and to be honest, it's not really worth playing it any less than the most difficult you can get. Partly because it's extremely easy, partly because you don't find anything really exciting at the low levels, and if you wanted to try and progress and play at a harder level with the dinosaurs that you've actually gathered so far at a lower level, it makes it more difficult for you. And it also adds more fun into actually playing the game. You have to track down the really high level dinosaurs and creatures that you want. So yeah, it's one of those. It's part of the whole Ark game, if you like. If you were to set it all the way down to the bottom, all the way down to 0, I think the maximum dinosaur you'll find is about level 20. It might be slightly different on some of the later maps, but on the initial map for the island, it will give you about level 20 or so. Dino damage. 1 is the standard, that is normal damage difficulties. If you decrease that, it'll reduce the amount of damage that dinosaurs do to you and to the wild dinosaurs as well. If you increase that, they'll do more damage. So we're going to keep that standard. Player damage, exactly the same principle. If you reduce that all the way down to 0, you'll do no damage. If you increase that, it'll do more. Structure damage, same principle. Player resistance. On player resistance, if you leave that at 1, it'll be a standard amount of damage. If you decrease that, you'll have more resistance and they'll do less damage to you, and then vice versa. If you go above 1, it'll give you more. You'll take more damage from dinosaurs, and you don't really want to do that unless you are going to go through on a extremely hard, extremely difficult run through where something like a fish could potentially kill you. Dino resistance is, again, same principle. Higher numbers, it's going to give them more resistance, you do less damage, and vice versa. So less than 1 is reducing damage. Same with the structure. I'm actually going to reduce my multiplier for EXP down to 0.1. 0.25. So that will allow me to actually receive a quarter of the official EXP. Part of the reason for that is the very early part of the game, when I start to actually play it, it'll essentially slow down the amount of EXP that I'm gaining. And I have played it from 0, or level 1, all the way up to the maximum you can get to at a quarter difficulty. It is possible, it just takes a lot longer. If you wanted to watch and play through at the same time, essentially you could keep it at 1, and then you can get some of the more advanced stuff, so you can get ahead of where I actually am. And it is possible to do that. I've watched other YouTubers do the same thing, where I've been watching them and playing through at the same time, trying to keep up with them. I've actually overtaken them when you start to actually play the game. There's lots of things that give you XP. Taming speed. Now, I've put mine at the maximum it can be. That's partly so that I can knock out a dinosaur on camera and I can tame it whilst we're sat there talking. Some of the official taming rates, the official taming times for particular dinosaurs can be a ridiculous length of time. We're talking 2 full, real-time days to tame some of these particular dinosaurs at the highest level, even with all the bells and whistles that you've got. And I haven't got any sort of editing off software to reduce that down. And obviously, I don't really want to sit here for 2 days just sitting there watching a taming bar go up. There's a lot of things that can happen in the whole of the taming process, which I'll explain when we get into the game. So I've set that as high up as I can. It won't actually allow you to go any more than that, but that should be 8 times faster than normal, which does mean that some of the official taming speeds are reduced a lot, and I can get away with taming creatures with less palatable food. But it makes that a bit easier for me, and it cuts down my sort of video times a little bit. Don't really need to change anything with this. So if you damage an item or it gets damaged, you can obviously repair them, but there's a small cooldown time. So if you're in the middle of a fight, you're trying to repair something, essentially you'd have to wait a little while before you can redo that again. That is the amount of damage done. The amount of damage turrets deal to dinosaurs. I don't really use turrets. Ammunition is expensive, and I don't have enough resources for that to obviously keep turrets going. If I was maybe as part of a tribe, it might be easier for that. I'm pretty sure that is the standard one. I don't remember increasing it. I may have done at some point, but basically the harvesting damage, if that is higher, you get more resources quicker. And then the amount, if again you want to try and ideally get as much as you can out of the resource that you can, but that doesn't really affect us that much. It just means that I can build things slightly faster than the standard official rates. Player water, player food, dino character food, and character stamina, all these set to 1 is the official. The only time that I might move, say, food and water down would be if I went to Scorched Earth, but that's only because Scorched Earth has got an increase in your food and water drain, or at least in particular your water drain, and water is a little bit harder to find on there, but I probably won't change that. That's part of the fun of Scorched Earth. All these can say it. Obviously, health recovery, pretty self-explanatory. Health recovery, dino health recovery. Player harvest damage. Obviously, some things that you can harvest on your own. Certainly, initially, it's how you start off. Yeah, you haven't got anything, so you have to do it all on your own. As you progress, you can then get dinosaurs to help you do that. I've done this before where I've increased this more than the standard, and you run the risk of actually taking more resources than you can physically carry, and then end up just throwing them on the floor and actually wasting the resources. So it's not actually beneficial for you personally to take more than that. Dino count, you want to have that as the most you possibly can. That just basically allows you to spread the whole maximum number of dinosaurs over a space that you've actually accessed. It does get to the point that every now and again I do need to either do a dino wipe to clear the server and refresh everything because I'm not getting new spawns, partly because I'm on my own, But apart from that, it allows you to get the most dinosaurs that you possibly can, which gives you the most potential to find the higher level dinosaurs that you're looking for, and or the pretty colours that are out there as well. I don't really use that, so that's ticked off. Don't use global chat because I don't have anybody join me. Players don't come on, so that's fine. I don't think anyone will join me, but just in case. Admin login. That's the only time I'd ever need that is to enter a command to put in a dino wipe command. And that's basically it, really. It's just so that I can clear that off, so that needs to be on. I don't know why you wouldn't play with crosshairs on, otherwise you don't know what you're looking at or aiming at. I don't know why you'd want to tick that off. Force no heads up display. Again, I would like to see what I'm actually using to a degree, and you can turn that off anyway. I don't know why you would tick that off. Disable loot crates. Well, you could do that. That would be an interesting way to do a playthrough with absolutely no loot rewarded whatsoever. It'll make the game extremely difficult, and you probably wouldn't be able to do anything with it, but that is something you could do if you were planning to do your own series. Hardcore mode. If you were to tick hardcore mode and then play, you get one death. Everything that you've built, gathered, every dinosaur that you've tamed up, essentially belongs to your one life. The very second that you die, you don't have access to that. I've hit this button before and gone in and played to do something silly, and I've lost months and months and months worth of effort because I can't access it. And eventually they'll despawn, which is great. PvE mode. If you were to play with PvE enabled, it basically gives the single player people a little bit of a, not an edge, but they haven't got to deal with some of the PvP stuff. So there's a thing called a cryopod. In PvP mode, if you've got a cryopod and you throw it, you have a cooldown time before you can access the second one. Otherwise, you can cause your dinosaurs to get sick. In single player mode, if you've got it set PvE, you can throw out as many cryopods as you like, and that's the only reason that is ticked. Disable friendly fire. I leave that on because when you're breeding things, you will find some dinosaurs that you don't really want. They're either not the right level or not the right sex. You've got a load of males, you really want to get some more females into the breeding pool. So leaving it enabled essentially means that you can kill your own dinosaurs off and clear up some space, or keep going until you find the right one. Show player map location. I know it doesn't say that, but that's basically what it is. You tick that off, you have no idea where you are on the map. Tick that on, you can actually see which way you're pointing, you can work out which way you're going home without needing a compass or anything. All these download bits and pieces so you can transfer items from, say, the island to Genesis or to Scorched Earth or any of the other maps that are available. I could tick these. This might resolve one of my issues I've been having recently, but basically it's my choice whether I want to trade stuff through or not. So I could just not trade stuff through and then I wouldn't need to tick these. Maximum difficulty. So that's the one that allows you to take dinosaurs up to 150. With that ticked off, it forces them to a maximum of 130. You want the 150s, or 145s normally. I don't ever use any of these. Use single player settings. Again, that makes it a little bit easier for a lone player. Sort of reduces the difficulty a little bit. Makes things go a little bit faster. Makes the because you're not there as part of a tribe or anything like that, you can't have people from different parts of the world continuing what you're actually doing at the moment. So if you've started taming something big, they will still be able to feed and take care of that dinosaur at that point in time when they log in, and so on and so forth. I'm on my own, so I can't have any extra benefits with that. Corpse Locator. This is going to be an extremely useful tool for you. If you don't tick this, it basically means that all the items that you have may or may not be lost. This basically creates a green light or a beam of green light that indicates where your corpse was. If you're playing this expecting not to die, this isn't really the game for you. Part of the fun is obviously getting into a situation where you know you shouldn't have been there and getting extremely scared, worried, and then trying to find your way out of it. And we will die at least once or twice or 10 times in this game. This one is to do with building. So disable structure placement collision. That allows you to snap items into the ground. That makes it so that you can build in different ways. You can build, you can stack things on top of each other and so on. It's part of the building process. So I have that ticked on. Multiple floors on that. Unlimited breeze specs. Basically, you can create an item called a Mind Wipe Tonic, and that allows you to essentially reset your level back to 1. All the skill points that you've gained in that point, you can reallocate them out as you see fit. But essentially, it allows you to keep your level, but just respec how you put the points. If you don't have that ticked, you have to level up again from level 1. Disable dino taming. That seems like a really silly idea. The whole concept of Ark is to tame dinosaurs and ride them. Disable rider dining. Disable dino riding. Sorry. Again, that's why you're here, is to catch dinosaurs and ride them, I assume. Maybe. Show creative mode. I've never used creative mode. I don't really want to use creative mode. That stays off. And I don't really think that allowing yourself to level up your flyer speed is something that I'm going to use either. I don't think I've ever used that, and I don't think I ever will. Otherwise, you end up creating something that is just literally a missile going across the map. I can't really cope with that. Most of this up here, don't really worry about, so I'm not using PvP. Don't really use that. Allow cave building. That is helpful for a couple of caves. It's not something I do a lot of. I know we build on the outside of the cave, but it might be that I may put a sleeping bag inside the cave or something at some point. So I'll keep that one enabled. Flyer carry PvE. That is extremely useful. You'll find that you'll be flying around on something that can pick something up. You'll find that there'll be an odd dinosaur that you really like the looks of, but it's in a really dangerous place, or it's in an ocean or something, and you want to scoop it up and move it somewhere safer, or it's being attacked by a load of raptors or something. You don't want to just get it out of there and move it somewhere else. It also means that you can pick up some of your own dinosaurs, fly them into other places as well. Although you should be able to do that anyway. But it means that you can drop dinosaurs into a taming trap or something along those lines. I think I will keep that on. It allows you to build in different places, but you don't really want to block the metal nodes and things like that anyway. Structure decay doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. These are all set to to standard anyway. I play with prevent disease just to reduce my stress levels a little bit. It does make it harder. It does mean you've got to obviously take on that extra challenge as well. There is an achievement associated with diseases, so you can, what I would do initially is turn it off, get the achievement for dealing with that and then bring it back to life, bring it back on again. But it doesn't. It does make the game a lot more difficult, but it's not really going to make a whole lot of difference in my eyes. Um, Although you could play with maybe prevent diseases, but keep the non-permanent ones on. So if you do get something like rabies, when you die, the disease is gone, and then you can just go back to what you were doing. Allow cave flyers. There is one or two caves that you can potentially find a bit of benefit from bringing your fly inside. Normally, it's just to protect the flyer from being attacked by something else or it flying off because it's attacked something. That would be the only reason why I'd use that. I could probably work with it not being there, to be fair. That doesn't matter for us anyway. Don't really use that, but I have it ticked anyway. That doesn't matter because we're not doing PvP. That doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. Lots of PvP stuff. This one. I don't think it affects us, but I think it may do. Having that set means that it tells you how far resources will respawn from your buildings and bases. Apart from that, don't really use that. Disable imprint buff. That stays like that. You don't really want to do that. When you imprint a dinosaur, you basically get a slight speed boost and a slight damage boost. Comes up with a little symbol in the top right corner of the screen. It basically makes your imprinted dinosaurs a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and that's part of the reason why you want to imprint something. Allow anyone to imprint. It's just me anyway, but there's a chance that someone may come on and help me. Poop interval. Yes, there is poo. You'll do this a lot. Your dinosaurs will do this a lot. If you increase that, you can create an awful amount of poo. The whole place would smell a lot. Turn it around the other way, they'll decrease less. This can be used to create more dodo eggs. I don't know why you'd want to create a lot more, but if you turn it up to silly numbers, you get more eggs than you could possibly imagine from dodos. It's the only dinosaur that's affected by its poop interval rather than its egg-lay interval. Every other dinosaur that lays eggs is obviously affected by the egg one. So again, if you increase that, you'll get more eggs more quickly. If you turn it down, you'll get more eggs, or get less eggs. Mating interval. I've got that down as low as I possibly can so that I can have the lowest time between breeding. Obviously, it's not particularly fair on the dinosaurs, but they are just a computer game. That's so that I can potentially get 2, 3, maybe even 4 breeding sessions done in a particular evening. Obviously, I work during the daytime, so I don't get a whole lot of time to actually do a lot of extra gameplay. So a few hours of an evening, I might get part of an army bred up. Hatch speed, you could increase that to make it go a little bit. Sorry, decrease that to make it go a bit faster, but most of them aren't too bad anyway. Baby mature speed, again, you want to keep that to where that is there, at 2.5. Gives you enough time to do everything that you need to do between it. I think the timer for that and the imprint goes to about 10. It's about 10 minutes on the imprint timer, which I think is the next couple down. And it could take up to, depending on the dinosaur, it's either 2 imprints up to about 5 or 6 at the top end, over the course of about an hour or so. So it's not too bad. Food consumption, that's set to standard. Harvest health. Health items. Okay, so that's how much health the resources have. You can make that more or less. Respawn period. Because I'm not in the areas where the resources actually are, they don't respawn particularly quickly. So I've turned it down a little bit from standard, so that there's a chance they'll actually respawn a little bit faster. I mean, you can set this all the way down to, again, very silly numbers, and you basically harvest and then turn around and turn back again, and it's respawned in some cases. Cuddle interval. That is to do with the imprinting. So again, setting it as low as you can. Sorry. Setting it as long as you can basically means that you've got the shortest times. It takes the shortest amount of time overall to fully imprint a dinosaur, which I don't really want to be spending days and days and days imprinting. If you miss a imprint for some reason, you've got a small timer, or internal timer at least, before it starts to lose effectiveness on your imprint. So again, I've kept those at standard. I think the imprint stats maybe up slightly, meaning they get slightly better stats on a couple of things. Day cycle. So the day and the night time. Sorry, daytime speed. Day cycle speed is how quickly day turns to night and night turns to day. And then the daytime and nighttime speed is how long you basically want the day. So they're all set to one of each, 111. That is the standard length of time for a day. I'm not sure what that works out to in real time, but it is whatever it is. If you decrease them, if you decrease them, you can basically make your days or nights longer or shorter. You can literally stop time if you set them to 0 when it gets to night time. It's something I have utilised on Aberration to get the best out of the Aberration loot drops, but it's just way in the future for us. But it's a massive cheat, essentially. Spoil times. I've kept that as low as I possibly can to give me the most amount of time that I can for things to actually spoil. It's probably more important for the early part of the game. As you get further through the game, it's a lot easier to get resources, and it's a lot easier to actually store those resources. So yeah, you can put them in fridges later on down the line and such like. Make that last longer. Item decay, that is essentially when you drop an item on the floor, it has a small period of time before it disappears. That doesn't happen very often. Obviously your corpse timer gives me the longest amount of time possible to find my corpse if I die. Distance from the player for resources and structures, it's about the same. Actually, I think these are down a little bit, but essentially when there's no... How far away from the player resources regrow and respawn. So if you decrease that, it makes the distance between the resource and yourself shorter, that they'll start to regrow. I think I've actually set the structured up a little bit further to give myself a little bit more space around my buildings, where it doesn't actually respawn. Obviously, how fast your crops grow and how long it takes them to decay. Dino stats. You don't touch any of these, because if you touch these, it upsets everything. These two here, the health and the damage on a tamed dinosaur, you keep those the same as well. if you increase them, then you make your dinosaurs extremely overpowered. Um, Even if you just simply match the numbers to 1, you'll end up with some dinosaurs that are absolutely ridiculous, that are doing more damage than you could imagine. They're taking on the biggest and the scariest things that are out there, and they're just one shot hitting them, taking out the bosses really quickly. You don't want to touch them. It takes away the fun out of the game. And same for that one, and same for that one. That obviously affects everything along the lines. If you wanted to, you could play with this and make yourself really overpowered, but in the early part of the game, it would be useful. The later part of the game, probably the only thing that you'd actually want more of, other than health and stamina, would be, say, weight. But you have dinosaurs for that, to carry all your stuff. You could play around with these so you can level up faster. It's not something that I'm going to do. This is just everything standard. Number of people in a player, blah blah blah. Don't really use any of that. Don't really do any of those. Show floating damage text. That allows you to see how much damage your dinosaur is actually inflicting, how much you are receiving, how much, yeah, all that kind of thing. You can actually see what your dinosaurs are getting and or you are taking. Without it, you can still see the damage happening, but you can't see the numbers come up that show you what's actually going on. Custom recipes, I've allowed it, but I've never actually made a custom recipe. And I don't really understand that one, but I've kept that the same. I've dropped that down, but again, I don't think that really affects me anyway. Crafting skill bonus, I've maxed that out. I've maxed out loot crate quality and fishing loot quality. This basically means that I get the best possible gear that I can possibly find. Again, that's mostly just the speed up thing. It's to save me farming for hours and hours and hours looking for one particular item. Essentially, when I find one of the items that I'm actually looking for, with the loot drops, it's almost guaranteed to be the best it could be. Just to make my life a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. That just obviously affects how your fuel works. And if you ever really wanted to enable one of the events, that's where you put it in there. Mine currently says Fear Evolved. That's one of the old events for Halloween. So, my intention for the series is we're going to start off on the island. There will be a small part of the time that I will pop to Genesis for a couple of items. I'll probably learn those engrams and come back and then hopefully delete that. I will want to pop to Scorched Earth ahead of time as well for a particular dinosaur. But outside of that, my intention this time round is to go from the island, play through the story, do all the bosses, move to Scorched Earth, move to Aberration, Extinction, and eventually end up with the Genesis 1 and 2s. I will need to do the achievement still for the centre, so I will pop there at some point. And there are a few dinosaurs on these other maps, so in fact all of those other maps apart from the centre, there are some dinosaurs on there that I've not had, or at least not put on, used in a long time. And obviously in June we have a new map joining us as well. That's the Viking Fjordur map. So yes, I want to play on that as well. Here goes nothing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clear all this data, and now I can't go back to it. And that's where I'm going to end it for this time. I'm going to end it very quickly here, and then I'm going to rejoin to then record my first episode. So hopefully you guys have been able to follow me through on that, and I will catch you in my first official video for YouTube. So thank you very much. I will see you when I see you next.